What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of Jamming with J Money. Make sure you guys go and visit sbrpicks.com/NBA. Check out all the articles that we have over there. My guy Jordan has some nice odds of picks up there for you guys for the NBA draft, man. So this is the NBA draft 2020 draft preview show, man. We're gonna try to get to it, man. Try to, what I'm saying, talk about some NBA. Hadn't seen you guys in a while. What's up, Jordan? Everything good with you, brother?
Everything is great, my friend. I am so glad to be back on the show with you guys. It was a very short break. We kind of signed off the end of the NBA Finals, thinking we might not talk until Christmas time, and here we are, week before Thanksgiving, baby. Let's go! I am so excited the NBA is going to be back early this year because it's going to be tons of load management. So it's going to be a lot of fun once we start this show because I'm sure news is going to be breaking about every second during the hour that we do the show because that seems to be what it is. But happy to be back. Glad to talk to you guys again. And the answer to your question again, I am doing great. How about you, Junior?
Yeah, can't complain. Glad to be on the show. Love doing the show with y'all. I wish you wouldn't have just said load management because that just ruined my mood already.
Just get ready. Just get ready now. It'll be easier later when we get ready now.
Yeah. Excited for this draft. Excited to hear y'all's opinions. Everybody in the chat's opinions. Let's do it. Let's get it.
Yeah, I do not want to talk about no load management, man. This new age NBA is totally different, guys. We know this, man. But even from the draft perspective, it's going to be a virtual draft this year, obviously. So won't be seeing anybody shaking hands, anything like that, man. So, but all types of props, even more props. So we're definitely going to break it down, talk some NBA, you know what I'm saying, talk about these NBA teams or the best prospects we would like to see them go to, some sleepers, and some key trades as well, man. That's another thing I had to say around the draft time. It's not only the draft. You got teams making trades like, hey, I don't want this guy at all. So this is a perfect time to get rid of him. We're going to definitely talk about that towards the end of the show. Some of these key trades, guys. First, well, we know who has the number one pick, even though these guys have been known to trade their picks. Right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves do still have the number one pick, guys. So first, we're going to start off with them. I know it's all types of moving parts out there. Who's going to go number one, Junior? What we got, baby? What you thinking? Who would you like to see the Minnesota Timberwolves take in the number one pick if they did hold on to it?
I would like to see them take Anthony Edwards. I think that Anthony Edwards, as a player, kind of fits the profile. Well, not kind of. He fits the profile of what they need. If you look at their two best players, the two best players are, Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. Well, Anthony Edwards brings things that, and I'm not going to say that Karl Anthony Towns is not tough or D'Angelo Russell is not tough, but what I'm saying is, they've been known to have nights off where they take, where they kind of don't seem like they feel like playing. I watched Anthony Edwards in college, and he looks like a guy that goes hard. He looks like the energy guy on his team, even though he was the most talented player. And a couple of things. I'm sure everyone that's watched these draft previews keeps hearing he's got that prototypical NBA body. But, dude, if he was in high school a year ago and he's already 6'5", 225, when he gets into an NBA weightlifting program and a proper diet, he could be a real problem. And a guy that size, a lot of these guys in the NBA, and I'll throw you guys an example that I used to say all the time. Jason Tatum, the one thing that stopped him from being the superstar that we saw this past season was in his first 2 years, he couldn't really dribble the ball. Like, he would take like one or two dribbles, and if he wasn't driving in a straight line, he would pull up for that medium range jumper every single time. Anthony Edwards looks like he could legit, at his size, take dudes off the dribble, go downhill, and plays above the rim. So I just think for Minnesota's team profile, a player like that is what they need to add to Cat and D'Angelo Russell moving forward, in my opinion.
And we know those two are pretty cool too, Jordan, Cat, and D'Angelo Russell. They go meet up on the private jet, like, hey, we teaming up. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to look for this Anthony Edwards quote, or him talking about this basketball, Jordan. But I'm gonna let you go. What you think with this number one pick? You could have a different one than Edwards. What you liking, brother?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about too. That article that came out yesterday about Edwards, I think everybody stopped reading at the point where that quote, and this was like months ago that he was interviewed for this. Like, people don't realize, but where he's like, I'm just not even really into that basketball. I think he said, I'm paraphrasing here, and he said, if I was drafted in the NFL right today, I'd go quit basketball or whatever. Like, This kid, if you know anything about his story and you read that entire ESPN article also, you know he's got a really inspiring story, and he's really never had any structure in his life. His mom and grandma passed away, who were his caregivers basically in high school, and he's taken guardianship by his older sister and brother. Like, this is a kid that if he gets into a program that's good at developing talent and has a good coaching staff and a support system around him, I think he's going to absolutely flourish. So to answer your question, I do believe Edwards goes number one. And we were talking about this a little bit before the show, so I'll give a little bit of insight of this. I think a guy who we're about to talk about here with the number 2 pick in James Wiseman is the best overall upside of the draft. That being said, the combination of upside and floor, it's easily Anthony Edwards in this draft. And I think you're right. He fits perfectly, like Junior was talking about. The 3 things I think of that D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns do best, I will definitely not even think defense anywhere close to that top 3, if not maybe even the top 5 when we're talking about Russell. Edwards is definitely one of his 3 best talents is defense. He's a little undersized. He's got super long arms. He can dunk like no 19-year-old I've seen in a very long time. He's being compared to guys like Donovan Mitchell and Victor Oladipo. If he's got that kind of ceiling, absolutely has to be considered the number 1 overall pick here. I wrote him up when he was minus 175 to go number 1 in this article I wrote up at the end of October, so about 3 weeks ago. He's now minus 350, I think, at most shops to go number 1. It seems like the Wolves are content with knowing that he's going to be that number 2 guard and that second or third scoring option for them for a very, very long time to come here, along with Towns and Russell.
That was well said, my guy. Well said. And like you say, Anthony Edwards, I'm looking right now. Bovada, he is minus 300. I think this morning it was like plus 125, while LaMelo Ball was still the favorite. Now we've seen odd shift. Like my guy Junior said before he went on, it's obviously guys, word gets out. Somebody has some inside info. Guys from Minnesota, they already know who they're going to draft. It's just sometimes it kind of gets through the peephole. One of those things that I don't really like about the draft, we already most of the time know who's going to be number 1. We hear about it, but this particular case, it seemed like it was going to be LaMelo Ball, but now the odds are shifting towards Anthony Edwards. The guy says he's going to say he can rap like Lil Baby, man. So hey, we're going to see what kind of career path he want to take. You want to go to the NFL? You want to be a rapper? You want to be an NBA? But no, he's a damn good NBA player. Washington at Georgia. I agree with that. I do think that that's the best fit for the Timberwolves. Doesn't really make sense to take a center and take a point guard when those are currently your best 2 players on the team. It really would make no sense for them to take Ball or Wiseman, in my opinion. Has to be Edwards, one of the top 3 picks there. My guy Edwards, I just got to read the quote really, really quick. To be honest, he says, I can't watch basketball. He retells a story about the first time he dunked and how it signaled to him to talented, but so on and so on. He said, that's all I need to see. He says, I'm still not really into it. He says, I love basketball. Yeah, it's what I do. But like Jordan said, it was a month ago. He could be trying to get away from some teams. He could be, hey, the Knicks about to take me. You know what? I don't even want to play basketball. No, but Jordan, that's just something that Jordan said that really stood out to me on how these, if a guy goes to a team that can really develop him. So they could have been him trying to get away from a different type of team, Junior. What do you think about that? Just real quick on these teams, on the players going to the right team that fits them or that they feel that they can develop and grow with, Junior?
I actually was going to touch on that, so I'm glad you brought that up as a segue, because when Jordan said, hopefully he goes to a team that's proven they can develop young talent, my alarm bell started to go off and be like, oh, shit, I don't even know if I really want him to go to Minnesota like that. But all jokes aside, Minnesota's obviously tried to switch up their regime. They recognize the faults that they have as an organization, and they've made moves to change that culture. How much the culture has really changed, I guess only time will tell. And as for Edwards' upside, it's going to come down to can he shoot threes at a decent clip? Because if he can shoot threes at a decent clip, now his entire ceiling goes through the roof. Because he basically looks like he has all the other tools. I know people have said his shot selection is really bad, but I don't think those people watch Georgia basketball. Who the hell was he passing to on that team? Right. His teammates were not good, bro. Like, his teammates were not good. So when you're a young guy coming out of high school and you realize you're the best player on a major college program, you're probably going to take some bad shots. It's probably going to happen. You know what I mean? Because there's no way going into the season the plan was for Anthony Edwards to be the man on that team. He just developed into that role. I don't know if you guys saw that game in Hawaii that he played like right at the beginning of the season where he was going bananas. He kind of just came in right away hot. I think that, like you guys have both mentioned, if he can get into a situation where he's basketball as a career, and he dedicates himself and takes the time to get to that next level with all the money that he's going to see that he could possibly make, we could be looking at a future All-Star here.
Yes, sir. I hope so, man. The Timberwolves hadn't just been that great of an organization, but it could get a lot worse. It could get a lot worse. So, Jordan, do you want to piggyback on that, or on going to do you think the Timberwolves is a good, as far as like the long or the future wise, do you think they'll be good at developing a player like Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, I think it comes down to not as much development and just getting him like some, like the kid's been like in, like through different, living situations. Like it's not been the easiest upbringing for this kid. He's kind of like a Jimmy Butler in that aspect. But I mean, like we've seen, like when you get somebody like that focused and if they commit, like you just mentioned, Jay, that commit to the sport of basketball, like the sky's the limit for him. I think he's going to get in there and, like Junior said, work on his jump shot. It's really I think it's so much about developing him as a player as much as it is just developing him as a young man and kind of getting him to be a professional. Like that's half the battle for a lot of draft picks. You could say that about almost any draft pick coming out as a 19-year-old. I mean, I know when I was 19, I was definitely not as focused or committed to anything as I am now in my 30s. So I mean, yeah, I mean, like he's got all the talent in the world. I really feel like he's gonna blossom. I think, and I think the key thing about going to Minnesota here is like there's not gonna be much pressure on him. It's gonna be Towns and Russell, and they're gonna be like, hey kid, just go out there and hustle, like just play. And if he does that, he's gonna have a lot of freedom to I think get some open shots and get to the rack a lot. I think that's just gonna grow his confidence and kind of get him to thinking like, hey, I can be a great player in a long time, make a lot of money in the NBA. And I think that motivation alone, beyond the fact that he's had this goal for himself for a long time, I think it's going to be good for the Wolves. You're right, though. The Wolves traditionally have not done a great job at developing talent or making the best front office decisions, I guess we'll say that way. So this will be a test for them. But I think that Edwards, I think in either of the other situations, I think would bring its other challenges in the top three. So I think being in that situation where he can not only start right away, but not have a whole ton of pressure on him like he did at Georgia, I think is going to be great for him.
Exactly. And talk about pressure. We'll get into the next team with the number 2 pick, the Golden State Warriors. They went from being the champions to having the number 2 pick, and it's not a lie. They were probably one of the worst teams in the league last year. Even they lost Clay, they lost Steph, but still, man, it was a rebuilding year for them. There has been talks that they might trade this pick to Chicago for draft compensation and Wendell Carter Jr. So it'll definitely be interesting to see if that will happen. But I mean, I think that they should take Wiseman, man. They need a center. The Warriors need a center over there. He's probably the best. Obviously, he's the best center in the draft. He probably is one of the best overall players in the draft. A very athletic center. In my opinion, it could really change. You move Draymond Green down to the 4 or get his ass up out of there. Excuse my French, but I wouldn't be. The Warriors need a center, and there'll be a whole new team after that. Junior, what do you think about that? Who would you like to see the Warriors take at number 2?
I think they should trade this pick. I don't think they should take anybody. If they're going to take somebody, you take James Wiseman, just because if he could be the player that they envision, and when I say they, obviously scouts, everybody that's watched him play since he was a young man, just coming up, he would give them the most upside because if you just look at their championship teams, if they have a rim running center that can catch lobs and play a little bit of defense, that's all they really need. Now, this guy can do that at an elite level, plus he has an outside shot. Now you're talking about a guy that you might just trade Draymond Green at that point. Obviously I'm going a bit too far, but you don't need if James Wiseman lives up to his potential as a member of the Warriors, you don't need Draymond Green as much for 2 reasons. Number 1, he's getting up there in age. Number 2, his production has been regressing every year for the last 2-3 years. And number 3, they're kind of similar, right? Now, obviously, Wiseman will never be the passer that Draymond Green is, but he can be the rebounder and the defender that he is. And if he's a stretch 5, that takes the Warriors' ceiling to a whole nother stratosphere. But I think realistically, the Warriors' ceiling is not as big as we think. Steph Curry's already 30 now. Klay Thompson's going to be 30 in a little bit. Draymond Green's already 30. It's how many more years do we think the Warriors are going to be on top? So if it's championship or bust, you're probably better off getting a more established player from somebody else in a trade, in my opinion.
Got you, Jordan. The Warriors do have two superstars already right now in the game. We kind of forget about Klay because of the injury, but he's coming back. Him and Steph together. We can't forget they are the Splash Brothers. They need one more. This is the only reason why I say you keep Draymond for at least 1 year, because you're going to need somebody for him to look up to teach him the ropes. So yeah, you get Draymond Green out of there after a while, but for a little while you keep him there to help build up Wiseman or whatever. I wouldn't trade for Wendell Carter Jr. in my opinion. He's about as tall as Draymond Green in my opinion. Wiseman is actually like a center. Draymond Green is really like a stretch forward that plays center. So I would keep him for a year, put him at the 4 position, have him teach Wiseman the ropes. Jordan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I want to touch on both these things, but something Junior just said I think really makes a ton of sense for how you're looking at the Warriors and how they're approaching this pick. Because on one hand, you're right. Their window is now. They have a ton of money locked up into those top 4 guys. They have zero room to bring in another established player without paying luxury tax out the ass for just like a generation, basically. And all those guys are Wiggins is still young. I think he's mid-20s or so. But yeah, you're right. The other 3 guys are 30 years old, so they can look at it this way: we need to win now. We have a window of 2 to 3 more years with these guys before we start to really decline. And then once Steph Curry reaches free agency again in another 2 years, we have to win over the next 2 years 1 more championship. So you're right. Bringing in an established player could be that, or they could look in and saying, hey, maybe there's not an established player that we like the price of right now. Let's just kind of not only add a piece that we can use and could take under a wing and draft a James Wiseman like that, but he could also be the beginning of the future for this Warriors team once this current window is closed, and he's still going to be there because he's only 19 years old. I'm enamored with Wiseman's talent. The only thing that's keeping him from being the consensus #1 overall pick in this year's draft is because there's zero tape on him. He played 3 games before that dumbass suspension that I won't get into last year, and before that, he was pretty much considered the best player in college basketball. Obviously, we know what Obi Toppin did in Dayton, so we'll touch on him in just a minute. But like Wiseman's talent and ceiling, and he's already fits a need for this team. I think if you're the Warriors, you have a unique instance where they could draft the best player available and draft for need here if they take Wiseman. And to be honest, like we're talking about the Bulls here, that's a ton for them to give up just to move up 2 spots to presumably draft Wiseman. I like Wiseman long term a lot better than Wendell Carter, but Wendell Carter is the #4 pick is a huge price to pay just to move up 2 spots to get an unknown like Wiseman, who he may bust. I'm not just because I love him doesn't mean he's not going to be a bust. But the Warriors are in a very crossroadsy situation with this pick too. I think that the problem they've been running into is I'm sure they've been shopping this pick. I just don't know if anybody's paying the price they're willing to part with it for, and that's why I think they do draft Wiseman here. And I think that's an excellent consolation prize for them.
Exactly. And so if they get Wendell Carter Jr., who is not going to be an answer, in my opinion, is not a real he's a good player, but I don't think he'll fit well with the Warriors and fit well playing alongside Draymond Green. But if you swap that and get him and then go to 4, then who are you going to take? You still need a true center out there. So that's the only reason why I don't necessarily agree with it. I agree with getting Wiseman, like you say, he's young. You have a nice organization. You have a somewhat decent coach that can teach him the ropes. If the other players go, you still have him. If not, you can possibly trade Draymond Green. So I really feel like the Warriors, in my opinion, if I was them, it's Wiseman or nothing, man. But let's get to the #3 pick, man. The Charlotte Hornets. My guy Jordan over there, he say he's okay with Ball. He gives him his blessing. So we already know what that means. If Ball is at 3, the Hornets gonna take him. And let's be honest here, Jordan. If the Hornets do still sit there at #3 and Ball's available, it's probably in their best interest to go ahead and take him. What you think about that?
Absolutely. At that point in the draft, the Hornets can't lose, in my opinion, because they're either going to get Anthony Edwards or they're getting LaMelo Ball, and I think both those would be a huge win for this team. We'll talk about the roster implications that causes later with Terry Rozier, but I mean you draft for the best player available, and I hate that teams draft for need as high as they do because I think it's just a mistake most of the time. You draft the best player available. I think Wiseman goes 2. I don't think Wiseman goes 1. That means either Ball or Edwards is going to be there at 3 for them, and I think that's an absolute coup for Michael Jordan and company if they're able to get one of those guys. And I think it's going to be Ball. And to be honest, this is where the draft starts tonight. Like it starts at 3 because we know pretty much now with the way the betting markets are steaming who's going to be 1 and 2. Ball's going to be 3, but is it going to be the Hornets that take him there? This is where the trades, I think, are going to get interesting, because I think there's going to be a lot of teams looking to move up at 3 if LaMelo Ball is still there. The Pistons, the Knicks, you could go on down. The Wizards potentially could be looking a little feisty maybe to move up to 3 if that's the case, and get somebody that they can pair with Bradley Beal here for a little while. But if they do take him, I think Ball's an absolutely great talent for them. The jump shot's a little bit questionable right now. His defense is a little bit more questionable. Other than that, the kid's passing ability and just overall offensive upside is pretty high outside of the jump shot right now. I do think he's the best Ball family member basketball player long term. I think he will be better than Lonzo, I think, when all said and done. And that's saying a lot, because Lonzo's gotten a lot better here over the last year and a half. And obviously they're ready to give him the reins, what they just did with Drew Holiday the other day. So I think the Hornets here getting Ball, I think, would be absolutely great for them. I think it's actually better than Edwards too, because I think Terry Rozier is not a point guard. We know Deonte Graham's kind of a really good combo guard, and they could use him in that aspect. But they need somebody who's big, Ball fits that bill. They need somebody who could potentially play some defense in the future if they could get him to commit to it on that end. So I do think if the Hornets don't trade out of this pick, I think they'll be pretty happy with Ball, and then they can have the conversation about what they do with Terry Rozier in the future.
Terry Rozier, who is that? Hey, y'all seen him? Where y'all seen him? Where he been? Hey, who is that, Junior? I ain't even. He still playing the NBA? Hey, I'm messing with you. Now, LaMelo Ball is the plus 110 favorite to go third to the Charlotte Hornets right now. So that's just giving you the odds. But what you think about that, Junior?
I'm about to go left field right here. If I'm Charlotte, well, first of all, let me just give you guys my perspective here. Do you guys really how is Michael Jordan and LeVar Ball? How's that gonna work exactly?
It's gonna be amazing.
It's not gonna work. His dad's not gonna be on the team though, right? So at some point you gotta put that to the side, man. I know it could bring media. Some teams like the media.
It's gonna bring a lot of attention. That's
some people like. Hey,
ticket sales, baby. That's what it's gonna bring.
Charlotte needs to sell tickets right now, right?
Listen, man. Okay, so besides the fact that Michael Jordan might commit assault on LeVar Ball, let's talk about their roster. LaMelo Ball, Devontae Graham, and Terry Rozier. Yikes! I mean, just yikes. Listen, if I'm a team, I would be very careful who I surround LaMelo Ball with. Like. Yeah. You can't just put that guy on any team. Like, he's got to go to a team with some, like, stable guards, some, like, grown-ass men that are going to be like, hey, kid, I feel you that you can pull up from 40, but is that what we really need right now? Like, just settle down a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, if LaMelo Ball could go in a situation where he just thinks pass first and be a facilitator, then you got something, because his passing is elite. His size at the position is elite, but we don't really know. Do we know that LaMelo Ball could play defense? I guess we're about to find out in a couple months, but I would not. If I'm the Charlotte Hornets, bro, I'm not. Unless I clean house, I'm not putting LaMelo Ball on that roster. There's no way.
Who you getting?
I would take Killian Hayes. I think that Killian Hayes is basically LaMelo Ball, but like a professional in the sense that he's like, if you just listen to him talk, if you know his backstory a little bit, he's been playing with grown men since he was like a teenager, kind of like LaMelo, except, he doesn't have a loud ass dad who talking about he's going to have statues outside arenas and all types of foolishness. He's just a guy who followed a certain path. The knock on Killian Hayes is really simple. He's not really that athletic. Like he can do a little bit of everything, but he doesn't have that fast twitch. Is LaMelo Ball super athletic? Not really. I mean, he's nice. He can handle, but I don't want to go on a rant. So I'm just gonna say this. I just think that the ceiling for LaMelo Ball is a star, but the floor is Big Baller Brand. And if you know, you know. The floor for him is Big Baller Brand, the discount aisle at Target. Like, you can't put this guy on the wrong team or else it's going to go horrible. That's just my opinion. So I would take Killian Hayes here. Go
You
ahead.
taking Killian Hayes over Tyrese
You get nice
Halliburton?
odds. You get nice odds on that.
Would I take Killian Hayes over Tyrese Halliburton?
Hell no.
Probably not.
Okay,
But
I'm just checking on it.
Well, first of all, let me say this. I wouldn't take Anthony Edwards over Wiseman. I only said Anthony Edwards at 1 because who's picking?
Yeah.
Right. And that matters. That matters a great deal.
Right. The Timberwolves don't need a center. So why would they take Wiseman? That doesn't make no sense.
No reason.
The Hornets, I would say Killian Hayes because he could play 1, he could play 2. Halliburton is like, he's kind of has the same problem as Killian Hayes. He's not that athletic, but he could do a lot of different things. I think that I'm glad you brought up Halliburton, guys. I know I'm taking too long with what I'm saying. I think that Halliburton is going to be probably the top 3 rookie in production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think he's going to start right away wherever he goes and actually get like real minutes. So
that's what I want to know. Just because Killian Hayes' draft stock has been skyrocketing lately, but I mean, I still think the consensus is Halliburton is going to get drafted higher. But that being said, I agree with everything you just said.
Okay, so let me just say this one last thing. The only reason I said Killian Hayes over
and I think a team could reach into the top 10 to get him. He's definitely going to the lottery, though. I'd be surprised if he slipped that far. The kid from USC also, who just came out that said he's got a broken toe, Onyeka Onwuanku, I think is how you pronounce his name. Mm-hmm. I think he's another guy that could go into that top 5 range that could surprise a lot of people. The Cavs could go after him, I think, at 5, just because they know they're going to get one more year out of Andre Drummond, and that's it pretty much for him. We know they're probably not going to be able to re-sign Tristan Thompson. They're going to need a big man. Mm-hmm. I could see him going top 5 as well. I don't know what the odds for him to go in the top 5 are. I'm about to look those up too. But other than Halliburton there at 14-1, you're probably getting similar odds on him to be a top 5 pick if you can find something like that too. He'd be my other kind of top 10 sleeper that not a lot of people are projecting him to go top 5 type of guy.
Exactly. Yeah, George, I want to bring up my guy George said this was going to be one of my sleepers, Cole Anthony. George got a nice bet going. Cole Anthony under 20.5 is at plus 110. I know I saw it at somewhere around minus 110, but that's still a damn good pick. I think that Cole Anthony will not make it past the 21st pick. So that's just real quick. That's my sleeper. It was a damn good odds by George in the chat. What you thinking, Junior?
My sleeper is Villanova kid. I love these Villanova kids. Saddiq Bey. I think Saddiq Bey is an NBA ready player for 2 different reasons. Number one, he's 6'8" and he can knock down threes. And he shot a lot of outside shots, a lot of jumpers, but still shot almost 50% from the field. And he plays defense. Listen, if your number one skills or your traits are threes, defense, and hustle, and you're 6'8", like 220. I mean, unless you go to the wrong franchise, to me, you're a lock to be at least a role player. Because listen, I don't know if you guys, there's a couple of shows, like I watched a show where they do NBA redrafts where they go back in the past and they do the redraft. Like now that we've seen these guys play, how would you draft them? What you kind of realize in every draft, or if you just go and look on, basketballreference.com, there's not really that many good players in every draft. There's like 1 all-NBA player, like 2 all-stars, and then a bunch of role players. So I just think that a guy like Saddiq Bey sometimes doesn't get the hype because he's not flashy, he's not a star. But in 2020, he has the body, he has the shot, he has the defense, and he has the motor to be an NBA player. And he plays for one of the best coaches in college basketball down there. Villanova's program, we all know. It's built for success, and it churns out NBA players. So I like what I've seen from Bey. I think he's going to be a good fit in the NBA. And
I'm glad you said that, Junior. And Chaff says that was a good grab. He said he grabbed Bey at under 15.5. But Junior, that's nice of you because it's all about the fit. Even though a player, so really 9 times out of 10, only it's like Giannis. And I did see something about like the Giannis draft, them redoing that one. Obviously, look at the end, like the Bucks were pretty much trash, like they were terrible. So now he's the MVP of that team. But you start out as a role player, but you can blossom. You don't necessarily have to be the all-star. You can come in. So that's why I want to talk about sleepers. Tom Brady was what I know it's NFL, but he was drafted in like the 6th round. Then now look at him. He got 6 rings on, man. So
Jimmy Butler,
exactly. 30th overall, baby.
Exactly, man. So it's all about what you come into. What are you? And that's another thing, Junior. I'm a fan of Villanova. I respect the school forever because they build their players. When you go to that school, you say, no, we're not doing one and done, two and done. No, you're staying all 4 years. You're being developed. You're going to learn how to play defense. You're going to learn how to be a team player. You're going to learn how to be a man. I'm a fan of that, man. No, I don't want to see kids coming out of high school. I don't want to see them coming 1 year and then gone. I want to see them getting their college education. I know I'm going off a little bit of soapbox, but I really respect Villanova and what they do with their kids. I'm with you on that, Junior, but it's all about what you become into as an NBA player. If you can fit that role on that team, it's almost better than being an all-star. I mean, you look at some of these players going to get on the Warriors. You fit your role, man, and get you a ring. You don't have to be the best player on the team, so that's the last thing I had to say. But Cole Anthony is a damn good sleeper in my opinion. I'm a real big fan of senior players that have went all 4 years, like a Peyton Pritchard from Oregon, like a Cassius Winston from Michigan State. I really do feel like those seniors are a little bit, even though these other guys are real flashy, and you know what I'm saying, the seniors, they have the IQ, they have the mentality, in my opinion, that is most ready for the NBA. So it's definitely going to be some sleepers here, and there's some things that we're going to look back on next year and say, man, I can't believe that the teams were sleeping on this guy, just like they're going back and do to Giannis now. But it's going to take a few years for us to see that, guys. But in any closing words, guys, before we get out of here, we're also going to have a show tomorrow for the to go over the draft, you know what I'm saying, of what happened. So, Jordan, any closing remarks from you, my guy? Any other sleepers or players that you wanted to say anything about?
The only thing I just looked up, I was trying to find some odds on Onyeka Okongwu, and I found one of him at plus 160 to get drafted over Obi Toppin, which is a little bit of a stretch, but that may be a pretty sharp number actually. But that's not a bad thing if you're thinking he's going to jump into the top 5. Also, I think we're going to talk about some of these trades that have been happening as well, and probably some trades that haven't even happened yet potentially tomorrow as well. So stay tuned for that, and also. Don't go crazy with some of these draft pops, man, because some of these we could get into some crazy things that could happen between now and draft night. So don't go nuts. This is a real novelty type of show. I think this isn't like our normal shows where we're giving out props and gameplays, but there is some fun stuff because this draft's a little bit unique in that way. There is some money to be made because there's not a whole lot of consensus, and because of COVID, we haven't seen a lot of these guys. We didn't get any NCAA tournament on some of these guys, which is where a lot of these guys' draft stocks go up or down. So it's really a lot of wild cards in this draft for your teams and if you're betting on it. So just be safe in that aspect because next year's draft is stacked. So I think a lot of teams are not going to be real keen on making a lot of crazy picks in this draft or doing a lot of crazy stuff either because they're trying to set themselves up for next year as well, especially some of these bad teams drafting at the top of the draft. So just be cautious of some of those things as you go in tonight. But there are some markets you can make some money on tonight. I think if you got some of those last week or 2 weeks ago, you're sitting in real pretty positions right now.
Exactly. Damn good info there from my guy Jordan Sharp. Junior Brown, what about you, brother? Any closing remarks? Any other players that you would like to make a notable mention for?
Honestly, it's this draft is kind of interesting in the sense that I think that the more impactful picks are gonna happen like 4 through like 10. I think that the teams picking 4 through 10, they really got to be careful because one wrong move is going to set you back for a while. In terms of another sleeper player, I actually kind of like the small forward out of Florida State, Devin Vassell, another guy who can knock down threes and play. Listen, if you're 3 and D, how are you not? You know what I'm saying? Like you basically got to go to the wrong situation to not make it. So I just think that a guy like that, Vassell, who can shoot a high percentage, who has some size, because, can't teach size. And I think that these guys that need time to develop, to develop their body, that takes away minutes that they should be getting early on in their career. So I just think that whenever I see these guys, like, other than remember when Kevin Durant tried to bench press at the NBA Combine?
It's one of my favorite draft stories of all time, by the
way. He had like the strength of like a 12-year-old kid. He's like the exception to the rule, right? Because he's one of the greatest players of all time. Usually, when you're a weak ass dude in college, He ain't gonna make it in the NBA. So I just think these guys that already have ready-made size to go along with their skills are guys that I tend to look at. Just real quick, do any of you guys have a prop on Sadiq Bey? Like, I seen a dude in the chat said he got him at under 15.5. I'll be all over that. 15.5.
Well, he's projected at number 14 to Boston, the one that I'm looking at right now. I mean, all these projections, everybody gonna have their own projection, but he is projected to go pretty close to that. So just for what it's worth.
Yeah, right now it's he's at minus 300 to go under 14.5. So the Steam has caught that one too.
Yeah, all right. So never mind. I don't want no parts of no minus 300 everything.
Right. What? Hey, I know people in the chat look for best saying, "What's the value? What's the value?" And with minus 300, it's never value. I mean, I guess if it's gonna win, in theory, it doesn't matter. But I'm just not taking nothing minus 300 because I don't even want the $100 in return. It's like you're getting screwed. But who I think is gonna be number 1 through 3, I think it's gonna be Wiseman. I think it's gonna be Edwards, Wiseman, and Ball. So in my opinion, that's what's gonna be 1 through 3. Like I say, notable mentions from me. Peyton Pritchard, point guard. Cassius Winston, point guard. Marcus Howard, a Jordan team, baby. He took care of me plenty of times with Marquette. And as a Buki from Kansas as well, man. So I think it's some of these senior players that really have the IQ that are ready for the NBA, guys. Like I say, I'm pretty sure that we'll be back tomorrow with the draft recap show. So we'll talk about, what was right about, what was wrong about, and what these teams have going for the future. And tomorrow we'll get into the trades, James Harden, Kemba Walker, guys like that, Zach LaVine, because these guys will most notably not be on the teams that they're on right now next year. So it's going to be fun. Can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. We appreciate you guys for watching Jam with J Money. Always visit sbrpicks.com/NBA/NFL. All it, man. We got plenty of picks and articles over there. We appreciate all you guys for tuning in and come back and holler at us tomorrow.